Welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got something really special, a chance to analyze a pretty unique set of sources. We've accessed exclusive files from historical Egyptian police and court archives. We're pulling out two incredible, really twisting crime cases from the 1950s and early 60s. And these aren't just, dry reports. They detail some serious, high-stakes drama, desperation, betrayal. It's all in there.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. And what really stands out, I think, is how these old files capture something timeless, something universal. It's about how these deep-seated financial pressures, combined with the weight of social shame, hidden relationships, how it all spirals into these tragic, often violent outcomes.
Right.
And what's striking is that in both these cases, the initial investigation completely misses the mark. It really shows how the most obvious suspect is, well, almost never the actual culprit.
So, our mission today is to dig deeper than the headlines, to unpack these two really complex murder mysteries. One from 1963, which seems rooted in emotional ruin, and another from 1959 centered more on cold financial revenge. We want to find those deeply human motives the investigations eventually uncovered.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
Let's jump right into the first one, the Laconda murder, 1963. The scene is a lodging house in Egypt. And maybe for context, a locanda is essentially a small, often sort of transient budget hotel. Pretty common back then in cities, usually run by maybe one owner and a night worker.
Okay, so the discovery happens early, 5:08 a.m. There's a night worker, Zaki, doing his rounds. He's going to wake up a long-term guest, a guy named Haridi. But on the way, he notices the door to room 7 that's before Haridi's room is slightly open.
Just ajar.
Yeah, just ajar. So Zaki peeks inside and finds a body, a man, covered in blood. He immediately runs to get the manager, who'd apparently gone to sleep sometime after 11 p.m.
Okay, so Zaki's initial statement to the police is really key here, isn't it? It sets the whole baseline. He claims he was the only one awake after the manager turned in. And crucially, he says nobody entered or left the locanda all night.
Exactly. And that's the first, well, let's call it a protective lie that the police have to sort of cut through. Because right away, the details don't quite add up for a simple robbery gone wrong.
How so?
Well, they checked the registration ledger. Room 7 was registered to Hoda, a woman, but the victim inside, it's a man, later identified as Samir Sadiq.
Okay, wait, so the room's registered to a woman, but a man is found dead inside. Police must have been immediately suspicious.
Oh, absolutely. And when they questioned the locanda owner, he claims he knows nothing about Hoda. He suggests maybe his brother, who was away, must have checked her in. A bit convenient, perhaps.
Sounds like it. What about the other guest, Haridi? The one Zaki was originally going to wake up.
Right, Haridi. He admits hearing a loud noise, a commotion. The report uses the word douche, like a real racket coming from room 7. But he claims he just, put a pillow over his head and went back to sleep. Denies knowing Hoda at all.
So everyone's claiming ignorance or trying to minimize what they saw or heard. It feels coordinated.
It does seem that way. Like everyone connected to the place wants nothing to do with room 7 or this Hoda person. But the police quickly figure out that the address Hoda provided was fake. She was using a false identity. Why? Because she'd run away from home.
Run away? Why?
Her stepfather was trying to force her into an unwanted marriage. It basically drove her out.
Ah, okay. And this is where Zaki's lie starts to make a different kind of sense, right? It connects the victim, Samir, to the missing woman, Hoda.
Exactly. The investigation reveals Samir Sadiq was Hoda's lover. He had promised to marry her. That's why she took the drastic step of running away from her family. And Zaki, the night worker, he knew about them. He'd seen their secret relationship develop. The files suggest he felt protective, saw her almost like a daughter.
So his initial lie about nobody coming or going, he was trying to protect Hoda, shield her from this.
Precisely. He was withholding details about her identity, her movements, trying to keep her out of it. But eventually, Zaki's story breaks down. And then comes Hoda's confession. And it's painful, devastating. It completely changes the narrative.
So it wasn't a robbery or a rival lover?
Not at all. Nothing like the standard theories. Samir had come back to the room that night and basically dropped a bombshell on her.
What kind of bombshell?
The ultimate betrayal, really. He told her he couldn't marry her after all.
Why not, after she'd run away from him?
The reason? His father? Apparently, Samir's father was an incredibly wealthy contractor. And he'd threatened to disinherit Samir, throw him out of the family business, cut him off completely if he married Hoda. Samir chose the money, the stability, over her.
Oh, wow. After she'd risked everything. Abandoned her family, her mother.
Yeah. Imagine the guilt, the despair it must have just crushed her. According to her confession, she felt ruined. In that moment, she grabbed a knife. But her intention, she insists, was to kill herself right there.
To commit suicide?
Yes. But Samir tried to stop her. He intervened, tried to wrestle the knife away from her. And in that struggle, that awful, violent struggle, the knife went into Samir's heart, killed him instantly.
So it was an accident during an intervention?
That's what the investigation concluded. Accidental homicide. A death born purely out of that emotional devastation, that broken promise, not premeditated murder.
That's incredibly tragic. And it explains Zaki's actions, too.
Right. The emotional complexity is remarkable. Zaki, the night worker, was essentially willing to obstruct a murder investigation, maybe even implicate himself, just to protect this young woman he barely knew. His lie wasn't malicious, it was almost paternal.
So a real murder mystery, but the solution wasn't finding a killer in the usual sense. It was understanding the victim of circumstance, driven by shame, desperation.
Exactly. The intense pressure of social norms and expectations in that era played a huge role.
Okay, let's shift gears then. Because the next case, Lotfi's murder from 1959, it takes us down a completely different path, doesn't it?
It really does. We move from that accidental tragedy, that emotional ruin, to something much more calculated. This one feels like it's about cold, hard financial pressure leading to deliberate revenge.
Tell us about the victim, Lotfi.
Lotfi was a retired contractor. And the sources, well, they consistently paint him as a pretty unpleasant guy. Extremely stingy, a real miser and manipulative. He's found dead in his apartment. And interestingly, the door wasn't forced, it wasn't even locked, just pulled shut, ajar, and some money was missing.
Okay, ajar door, missing money. Initial thought is probably robbery.
That was the initial police theory, yeah. Especially since Lotfi wasn't in great health, needed to rest a lot. And adding to the picture, his extreme stinginess had actually caused his wife to leave him just 2 weeks before the murder.
So, the suspect pool. Who did the police look at first?
Well, the obvious circle. Lotfi had friends, Shahata and Medbuli. They were apparently the last people to see him alive. Shahata says he left around 10 p.m. Medbuli stayed later, maybe till midnight, just chatting with Lotfi about his marital problems. They were quick to tell the police they only played cards or backgammon for fun, never for money, trying to distance themselves from any financial motive.
But those marital problems, you mentioned his wife left him. Was there more to it?
Oh, much more. It turns out, about 3 months earlier, his wife had demanded a divorce. And Lotfi, being the type of person he apparently was, weaponized the situation. He actually blackmailed her.
Blackmailed his own wife? How?
He forced her to sign a trust receipt, basically an IOU, for 5,000 Egyptian pounds, which back then was an enormous, potentially ruinous sum of money. The IOU was designed purely to stop her from leaving him, to hold it over her head.
Wow. Okay, so that changes things dramatically. Doesn't that immediately put the wife and maybe her family right at the top of the suspect list?
You'd absolutely think so. The motive is strong. Revenge for the blackmail, plus the need to get that incredibly damaging IOU back before he could use it. Her brother, Talat, had even visited Lotfi recently, specifically trying to mediate this whole financial mess.
So wife and brother look very suspicious. Why didn't the police just focus on them?
Well, the robbery angle, the missing money, it muddied the waters a bit. But then the whole investigation takes this wild, unexpected detour. A neighbor named Hamza enters the picture. And he's an opportunist. Sees a chance to profit from the tragedy.
How does he get involved?
Hamza comes forward with this incredible story. He claims that Lotfi, in his final dying breaths, confessed to him that Talat and his sister Lotfi's wife were the ones who killed him.
A deathbed confession, pointing directly at the wife and brother. That sounds almost too perfect.
Exactly. It was completely fabricated. Hamza basically saw his chance and invented this story. And he immediately starts using it to blackmail everyone.
Everyone. Who did he target?
Pretty much anyone connected to Lotfi. He threatens Talat and the wife, of course. And she's terrified, not just for herself, but for her brother. She gives Hamza all her gold jewelry, any money she has, just to silence him. Then he goes after the friends, Shahata and Medbuli, using the fact they were there that night as leverage.
This guy is unbelievable. Anyone else?
Yeah, he even tries to blackmail Shukri, who was a former associate of Lotfi's. But here's the fascinating, almost ironic twist. Hamza's greedy, widespread blackmailing this scheme, designed just to enrich himself, actually ends up cracking the case.
How does that happen?
Because when Hamza threatens Shukri, Shukri panics. Big time. He's terrified. The investigation will uncover the real story. especially now with Hamza sniffing around. So Shukri tries to flee the area, tries to get a passport quickly.
Ah, so his sudden attempt to run makes him look guilty.
Exactly. This sudden, unexplained flight plan makes the police drop their focus on the wife and brother and zero in completely on Shukri.
And when they catch him,
He confesses. And the true motive is revealed. It wasn't a sudden argument or about the wife at all. It was about deep, simmering resentment built up over years of Lotfi's calculated financial abuse.
financial abuse. What did Lotfi do to Shukri?
Shukri explains that Lotfi wasn't just stingy. He was truly malicious, especially with money. Shukri had previously borrowed 5,000 EGP from Lotfi, but Lotfi, the shrewd operator, forced Shukri to sign IOUs Kembiat. They called them for 6,000 EGP.
So an extra £1,000 built in from the start.
Seems like it. Anyway, Shukri had painstakingly repaid almost all of the debt over time, but whenever he asked for the IOUs back, Lotfi kept claiming they were lost.
Uh-oh. I can see where this is going.
Right. So Shukri comes to make the very final payment, and suddenly Lotfi finds the IOUs. But he refuses to hand them over, unless Shukri pays an extra 1,000 EGP fee, supposedly for lost time and interest. He was trying to extort him one last time, right on the spot.
Just pure greed and manipulation.
Exactly. And Shukri, according to his confession in the archives, just snapped. He described feeling this overwhelming hatred and evil towards Lotfi for the relentless financial games. So, he killed Lotfi, took the money from the apartment, maybe seeing it as finally recovering the debt Lotfi essentially stole, and then fled after Hamza started threatening him.
So the missing money wasn't random loot. It was tied directly to the motive.
It seems highly likely, yeah. And the final verdict reflects this. Shukri is confirmed as the killer. His flight, the fingerprints, the confession, it all lined up. Hamza, the opportunistic neighbor, he gets charged too for blackmail and obstruction. But this bizarre twist, his criminal greed, inadvertently flushed the real killer out.
And we should probably give credit to Shahada, right? One of the friends.
Yes, absolutely. The record shows Shahada was the one who eventually eluded the authorities about Hamza's widespread blackmail scheme. He played a key role in exposing Hamza.
These two cases, just 4 years apart, they really do offer such a stark insight into, well, the darker side of human motivation back then.
They really do. In the Lukanda case, you have tragedy driven by emotional ruin, the fear of public shame leading to an accident, pure desperation.
Whereas with Lotfi, it's calculated revenge. Years of financial extortion, that feeling of being trapped and abused, boiling over into deliberate violence.
And it's fascinating how the people who seemed least involved initially held the keys, isn't it? Like Zaki, the night worker, holding the emotional secret in the first case, and Shukri, the blackmailed associate, holding the painful truth of boiling resentment in the second. The police weren't just solving a robbery or a love triangle. They were untangling these incredibly messy consequences of, well, unforgivable debts.
Debts, that's a really good way to put it. And it brings us perfectly to our final thought for you listening. Because both these stories really hinge on the devastating price of secret debts, don't they? Whether it's that secret romance and the social shame leading to accidental death, or the secret of cruel financial manipulation leading to calculated revenge, these are the silent, unwritten debts. Debts of honor, maybe, or love, or just plain money that seem to drive people to extremes. So maybe consider this. What are the silent debts or hidden pressures that might be influencing choices, shaping outcomes perhaps in your own world right now? Something to think about.